Welcome to the Priority Traffic Podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Ben. Our mission is to provide our audience with practical information that can be put to work immediately in order to give yourself the tactical advantage on your everyday decisions.
What's going on? Long time no see.
Another day in paradise, man. That's a famous line everybody gives. You know?
All right, everybody. Today we got a very special friend with us, Scott Ziegler. Say hi, Scott.
Oh, what's up, everybody?
Yeah. 19-year firefighter, a entrepreneur, a dad, a family man. You work with a human performance company. You got so many things going on, man. I don't even know where to start.
Neither do I.
Well,
too many. I got too many irons in the fire, as they say.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing though. You got to have those plates spinning.
Yeah, I've learned that I'm the type of person that has to have something going on at all times, or else I've never been like a depressed person. Sure. I don't think, but I feel like if I don't have something going on, I kind of can slip into a funk, you know.
Absolutely. We talked about that in our last episode, the first responder funk.
Yeah.
And it tends to like snowball effect in the wrong direction.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, I see it with people, you know, that I've worked with, and snowballs into, you know, it could be alcoholism or other problems, just being lazy.
Right.
Yeah. It starts with,
I mean, I've gone through those time periods in my life too. So.
Right. Yeah. I think we all have suffered from that malaise a little bit here and there, and some of us have had it worse than others.
Well, it's tough because, I mean, we're one of the unique careers where we get a ton of time off. And if you don't spend that time off doing something productive, man, you can get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. And before I was married and had kids, I did get in a lot of trouble. You know, I worked, you know, I've been a fireman for 19 years, and I've, you know, I met my wife in 2017.
Don't get this wrong.
Yeah, she only listen to it. She listen to the podcast. I said her podcast all the time. Did you listen to it? No. Yeah, no. So, but before I met her, I was, you know, I was pretty single. I dated a few girls, but I wasn't really in any serious relationship for quite a long time. And I had a boat, and I had my job at the firehouse, and then if I needed some extra money, I'd pick up shifts at the hospital and the ER, and I pretty much had way too much time on my hands, and you know, I mean, I wasn't like doing anything crazy, but
sure,
my life there wasn't a whole lot of value involved. You know, it wasn't really going in a positive trajectory. So
yeah,
I think go ahead.
You can party, but partying is only fun for so long before you kind of sit back and you go, "Hey, man, what am I doing here?" You know.
Yeah. And that's all I was doing. Is if I wasn't on my boat, it was because it was cold out, or I was at the firehouse. And then, you know, I was a trainer at a CrossFit gym, so I was staying healthy.
Sure.
Which seemed to be easier back then. But yeah, just, you know, that kind of lifestyle. I'm not the type of person that could have stayed in that kind of lifestyle, because I found, you know, having a family kind of lit a fire under my ass to, you know, do something a little bit better with my life and kind of dip my toes into some other things.
Dude, that resonates with me too. Like when you start putting things as priorities, like we've got all things that you know, you have those swords in the fire and whatever, but until you start naming them as priorities and really digging into them, you're like, man, I could do better in a lot of places. And starting with family, doing better on the family aspect is huge. And that draws out a lot of purpose for you, like us.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%. When I had my son, it was like, it was weird, because never before did I think about my days off. I just was like, what am I going to do? Then I had my kid, and it was like, I can't just sit around and play video games or go fishing. I need to do something to like elevate my family.
Yeah,
now.
You got to invest.
It was like this. It just clicked, and it was like I took off with it, you know. And I still have things that I do for fun. You know, obviously, I do a lot of hunting and fishing, and
sure.
I actually even have, you know, a podcast that is for fun with that, and we film our hunts and our fishing trips and stuff, and we make little short, like 15-minute episodes
Nice.
for an online network for outdoor entertainment.
Sure.
And that's for fun. And then I work for O2X, but even with O2X, I haven't been able to put as much time into that as I want to, just because I started the business, power washing business. So that kind of derailed things a little bit with O2X. But
totally. I mean, we've only got so many resources at our disposal, right? Like time, energy, money, people, and our thoughts. And if you're running low on time because you got other things going on, well, you know, if you start stretching yourself too thin and getting too many things going, then that's when we start to see a lot of issues happen. Overcommitment, under promising, and under delivering. So real quick.
Sometimes I gotta dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where did you grow up, man?
I grew up in St. Clair Shores, which is a suburb of Detroit, just outside of Detroit on the east side. Born and raised in this area.
Nice.
I briefly moved when I was 19, when I got my Fire 1 and 2 after I went to a community college for an academy here.
Okay.
And I moved to the west side of the state. Are you familiar with like Hastings, Michigan?
Slightly.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I've probably been there,
so
played
it's
baseball there.
It's like southeast of Grand Rapids.
Okay.
It's out in the middle of nowhere. So I moved out there. My dad lived out there, and he lived in a town called Freeport. And right after I graduated the academy, like a week later, I moved out there and applied to get on their department, because my goal in the fire service was always Detroit. I never wanted to work anywhere else.
Oh, nice.
In Detroit, I had applied to Detroit and took their test, and I actually was disqualified in the agility test.
Really?
Yeah, and it, you know, there's a lot behind that. There's a lot. I've heard a lot of stories through the years. I met other people who tested that same year with me who also failed. Whatever the reasons were, I was told that I didn't put a ladder back on a rack the specific way that it was supposed to be on there, which, from my recollection, that was never told the way. So they gave you instructions, and then they had the proctor, and the proctor told me something different.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, not making excuses. I mean, I failed it. It wasn't a hard test or anything, and I was in incredible shape. So it was a blow. It was a big time blow for me. I mean, I did everything but get on my knees and beg the lady to let me retake the test, because it came down to a piece of tape not being lined up with the rung, with the hook.
Yeah, that's tough, man. God.
And it was like, it's all I wanted. I just wanted to work for Detroit. So I was like, whatever. They'll take a test again. I'll test next time. So right away I moved out to my dad's, and I got on their volunteer department just so I could start building my resume.
Sure.
So Scott, at this time, what age are you when you first tested?
19. I was 18 when I tested in 2003.
Okay.
So I moved out to Freeport, got on their department. I walked in and applied, and they were like, they're like, yeah, come to our meeting tonight. I went in the meeting, and they were like, all right, you're hired.
No test?
So, yeah, they were awesome. They were cool people. They put me through some class. I got to go to some classes for free, some trainings. I was there for, I think, 3 or 4 years. I can't remember. Me and some other younger guys and girls on the department, they bought a house across the street from the firehouse, and I rented the upstairs apartment, and we made every call because we lived across the street.
Nice.
You're basically the crew.
Yeah. It was fun, and then I wanted to move home. Detroit still hadn't taken applications yet. My buddy worked for E-Course. You guys know E-Course.
Yeah. Yep.
So I got hired there part-time, and then I went and got a job at the hospital at the ER and as a tech. I back up a little bit. When I was a volunteer, I worked for an ambulance company for those 4 years.
Okay.
That's what I did for money.
Right.
And we worked 24-hour shifts. It was a medic basic unit, and we were like the main EMS unit for almost the whole county. We covered a huge portion of Erie County. So I got a lot of experience on an ambulance with some really good calls, and it was a lot of fun working for them.
I bet. Was it pretty rural? Like, how far out were you
Yes.
from your hospital?
So we had a hospital in Hastings, Pennock, with like, I think Pennock had eight beds.
Huge.
Yeah. A lot of helicopters landed
wow.
to take people to Grand Rapids or Kalamazoo.
Okay.
Or if we couldn't get a bird to fly, we were taking them. And most of my calls were. It was interesting. It was an interesting learning curve for me because when I was there, we ran 24-hour shifts at the fire. We had like a fire station, and rarely were our calls not legit calls. It was mostly people that needed help.
Right.
Real bad car accidents, firearm accidents, hunting accidents, all kinds of farming stuff, just gnarly stuff. I mean, some of my first calls I'll never forget. And then when I moved home and I got on the E-course part-time, I took a job with Star EMS in Pontiac, and it was like sit in the ambulance at a corner and then go take someone from dialysis to the nursing home.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did it, dude. I did it for 2 weeks, and I'm like, this is not the same.
Dude, it's funny when you go from rural to like urban.
So different.
The system changes, and it's different, obviously, from county to county and city to city, but state to state. I was talking to a guy the other day out in Minnesota, and it's just way different everywhere. Same problems, but there's so many differences. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So I did. I went to and I worked at the hospital. I couldn't do the ambulance thing anymore.
Gotcha.
So I worked in E-course part-time, and then I was at the hospital, and then Highland Park. I actually applied to Highland Park way before any of this happened, and I got a job offer there. And my mom was best friends with this guy that worked for Detroit, and he called me up and was like, "You can't work there. It's a horrible place. They don't have the proper equipment. The pay is low." He just painted this terrible picture. And at the time I was working for the ambulance company, I had benefits and my pay was not bad for a 19-year-old kid. So I didn't take the job.
Right.
And then my buddy got hired there like 2 years later, and all he's doing is sending me pictures of all these fires he's going to. And I'm like, I could have been there 2 years ago.
Right.
And I'm not. So
dang it.
So I'm working in the ER, and this guy comes in on an ambulance from Detroit EMS, and I recognize him, and he worked for Highland Park as well. So I asked him if I could do a ride along, and he was like, "Yeah, sure." He gave me his number. I went down to Highland Park one night, and we got I think we had 5 fires that night.
Oh gosh.
And one of the lieutenants, he started an E-course, so he kind of we're going up the stairs into this fire, and he stops and turns around and he goes, "All right, let's go, E-course, see what you got." He hands me the pipe, and I remember my knees were burning because the floor was so freaking hot.
Oh yeah.
And I remember I was exhausted because I was way out of shape at that point, and we had been in multiple fires. I was really tired, and they were letting me work. That was the first time I had the pipe there, but they were letting me work. So
nice.
I'm like, two sides of my brain were working at the same time. I'm like, this is awesome, and then the other side, I'm like, holy shit,
I'm gonna die.
Right. There's a lot to take in there.
So how do you?
So
I've never had 5 fires in a day. I can't say that I have. I've never worked in a system that's had that kind of fire volume. But what does that feel like, brother?
Exhaustion.
Yeah.
Because you can condition, but your capacity is not infinite, right? At some point you're running low.
So it depends. I'm trying to think of how many. The most fires I've had with Detroit in a day were, I think I had 8. I went to 8 fires in Detroit. But it's different in Detroit because we have a proper amount of manpower.
Understood.
And I'm not trying to say that it's easier or it's just different. There's enough people to do the job that needs to be done. So, the fire's going out and everybody's, about done with their bottle, or maybe their bottle's gone and they went out to get a new bottle.
Right.
In Highland Park, when I started, there was 7 guys on duty, but at that time we dispatched ourselves, so someone always had to be at the firehouse.
Right. House
So
mouse.
we were, yep. So we went with 6, and one of those 6 is the boss. He's not going in because most of the bosses back then were old public safety guys.
Okay.
So some of them didn't even put their gear on the rig.
Wow.
So you're down to 4 now, and one of those 4 has to, operate the pumps.
Right.
Sometimes there was a couple bosses there that were good at that, and they would relieve the driver to go fight fires. So we would get 4. So you're 3 or 4 guys fighting the fire.
Jeez.
And I had nights where I couldn't lift my feet anymore, like walking, just dragging my feet to the point of like you start to get your hip flexors are sore because you're pulling all that.
Yeah, you're dragging your feet everywhere.
Yeah, your gear's wet, everything's heavy, and you're just, I remember going back to the firehouse and getting another run and just being like,
right,
time to put on some wet gear. Yeah.
Yeah. But afterwards, when it was done, it sucked during it.
Sure.
And then when it was done in the morning, you drive home, and I remember having almost like a high, like I was like just a dopamine rush. Like the thought of what we did last night was, effing awesome.
Yeah. Like you survived.
And now I'm going home. I'm gonna go out on my boat for the day.
Right.
You
got a
earned
little
it.
chip on your shoulder, right, man? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So every now and then you call one of the guys that was with you and be like, dude, last night was insane. So that was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I really got to learn. You learned quick because you were every fire you went to, you had the pipe.
Right.
And so there wasn't any I could go to 3 fires in a day in Detroit and might not have the pipe at all.
Right.
Because I wasn't first due or whatever. So, it was a quick learning curve because right away you're like, go, you got to do it. And it was all younger guys. Can you hear my dogs barking right now?
Yeah, we got dogs here too, so
It's all good,
we'll just
man.
keep rolling.
Okay. All right. You learn quick because there wasn't enough people to do all of the things that needed to be done.
Right.
And we had a group of guys that had a couple of the guys there had 10, 15 years on, but for the most part, it was guys that had 5 years or less.
Right.
Fighting the fires, trying to figure shit out.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we kind of all learned together, and my dog's driving me nuts. Can you hear that?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
good, man.
you're good.
I'm just gonna close the door real quick.
Yeah.
She's barking at the garbage man.
I got a new puppy at home, well trained with little nonsense from the dog.
I got 2 labs upstairs who will bark at just about anything, so we try not to make too much noise. But yeah, what you're saying is really important. Like I run in an area that we don't have a high volume of fire, right? We don't get a lot of opportunity to get the reps like you're talking about. You had every day, you're getting the pipe, you're getting reps, you're getting experience, you're making decisions, you're making maybe bad decisions because you don't know, right?
Yeah,
so
a lot of bad decisions.
Right. A lot of feedback is going to come and help you fine tune your system. And I know Ben sees a little bit more fire than we do, but it's just there's something to be said for having the opportunity to get better and make decisions.
Well, and I take that with me. When I went to Detroit, I had to stuff it down inside of me because nobody wanted to hear about it.
Of course.
I'll probably get shit from somebody for this if they listen. They'll be like, "Oh, Island Park, blah blah," but it's facts. It's just the way it was.
Right.
Everybody's
And
got
I'm
their
not
story,
trying to
man.
brag.
Sure.
What's that?
I said everybody's got their story. This is yours.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm not. I don't say any of this stuff to brag about it.
Sure.
I just this is the story. This is how it was when I was there. I don't know how it is there anymore. I know they get way less fires now than they did back then, but
Right.
I almost don't know. I only know a couple guys that work there still, but yeah, it was different. And one of the things that got me into I worked out.
Mm-hmm.
But you're 20, so you don't got to work out that hard. You just kind of eat healthy and go to the gym. But
Right.
I gained quite a bit of weight, and I was going into the kitchen one day in Highland Park. It was like my first actual day on the job there, We had an apartment building fire at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was in August.
Okay.
And it kicked my ass. And we get back to the firehouse, and there's this guy that worked there named Paul Bates. And he's like a big, tatted up military guy. He'd just gotten back from a deployment from Iraq. Like, he'd done multiple tours over there. He was, the guy's got an M16 tattooed right here with a bullet on his middle finger.
Nice.
So he's an intimidating fella that I didn't know very well. And he's sitting there drinking his coffee, and he goes, hey, he goes, who the fuck are you? And I was like, oh, I'm Ziegler. I'm the new guy. And he goes, yeah, well, you're fucking fat, and you're not going to make it here. He goes, we already got enough fat guys here, and we don't need any more. And I was like, all right, bro.
All right.
So I went in the kitchen and got my coffee. I come back out, and I'm like, hey, I go, well, I kind of agree with you. So, like, do you got any, like, tips or advice? Like, I've never really thought about having to lose weight. So, like, what do I do? And he's like,
Right.
He goes, dude, do I look like your fucking personal trainer?
Oh, no.
And I was like, no. He goes, I don't know. He goes, Google CrossFit or something. And I was like, all right, I'm going to Google CrossFit. I don't know what that is. Google CrossFit.
There you go.
That sounds like a nice old traditional guy.
Dude, he's one of my, I talk to him every once in a while now, maybe 6 times a year.
Yeah.
Through text messages. But he became one of my good buddies. And he admits that he did not like me when I started there. But he was right. They didn't have any room for guys that couldn't pull their weight. They had guys that didn't pull their weight.
Right.
And there wasn't room for any more. And he was right. I wasn't going to make it there if I didn't do something about my fitness level, because, I'm sure they wouldn't have fired me. I would have stayed there, but I would have either hurt myself, or I just would have been a guy that nobody wanted around. They didn't want another guy. Like, the dudes they called them scrubs.
Okay.
The scrubs that they had, they liked them because they'd been there forever, but they all knew that they were scrubs, and the scrubs knew they were scrubs too.
Right.
They weren't going to accept me as a new person if I sucked.
Right. You weren't even going to get in the circle.
No. Nope. So I went to I couldn't afford CrossFit, so I went to a gym that had like a CrossFit class. I lost like 30 pounds in a month.
Yeah.
Nice,
wow.
man.
That's impressive.
Yeah, but I was also like, how old was I? 24, 25?
Yeah, that helps.
So,
yeah, I'm 26, so I can go up and down pretty quick.
Yeah. I broke up with a girl I was dating, and I just lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah, you ready for the rebound?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, were you pretty athletic in high school?
I gained it all back. What's that?
Were you pretty athletic in high school? Like, did you have a background in anything, or were you just always a little bit portly?
No, I wrestled in high school until I stopped my junior year because I tore my ACL.
Ooh.
So I was out that season, and I didn't really want to do it anymore. I'll be honest, I wasn't very good at wrestling.
That's a tough sport, brother.
I liked it, but I did it because my dad did it, and my dad was like a state champion. Like, so I probably just disappointed the shit out of him.
Yeah. It doesn't always work out good when we go down somebody else's path for us.
Right.
Right. I was more of a partier, man. I wasn't really athletic. I wanted to party. I wanted to drink. I wanted to, hang out with the girls and
sure
have fun. So I just, I didn't really get athletic until I got hired in Highland Park. And that was when I was like, time to go or time to leave, because
right.
I wasn't going to do that.
So your buddy with the M16, he was on Highland Park?
Yeah.
Okay. And so having somebody stop you and say, hey, man, you got to lose some weight. Anybody down the street, if they were to stop you and go, hey, man, lose some weight, you'd be like, like.
F you.
Yeah, like up yours, How come this guy it held so much weight where you're like, oh, man, I'm making a change right now?
Because I wanted to be in that circle, man. I wanted to be the guy. I wanted to be somebody that they wanted on the team. I just wanted to be on the team. And they were all in great shape. And they call it gear training there.
Yeah.
I mean, you can figure out what that means.
Right.
They would do it every day. They would get their gear on and they'd flip tires. They drag hoses. They do everything. They still do it.
Right.
I just wanted to be in that group. I wanted to be part of that team, and so that's what I did. And I kind of figured that if I got hired in Detroit, because I still wanted to work for Detroit. Meanwhile, all this time, Detroit hasn't taken applications, so we're going on
5 years?
10 years now.
Okay.
So it was a 10-year period between the time I applied the first time and the time I applied and got hired.
Wow.
And they never took. The only people who got hired on Detroit Fire Department in that 10-year period were people who had worked for the city already.
Really?
Yep. So you had to be a city employee to apply.
That is crazy.
So EMS, police, water department. Like there's a class of guys that got hired. They all came from like water. And sewer. Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like for a while there, what I heard is like you had to be on DEMS, and that was like your step in. You do a couple of years there, then you might get a step in.
Even that, DEMS was the hard way because they didn't want to lose DEMS.
Right.
So a lot of guys went DEMS and couldn't get it. They like one guy I know tried for like 8 years and never got hired.
Ugh.
Jeez.
I actually went the police route. I applied to the police department.
Okay.
Because everybody said that if you were a police officer there and you want to transfer, you'll transfer because there's nobody else doing it.
Gotcha.
So I went through their whole process, and then I got fingerprinted, and I had a good in too. And then they did a hiring freeze.
Oh, geez.
And I was in Highland Park at the time, so once the freeze lifted, I just was like, whatever, I'll just work here until Detroit opens applications and apply that way.
Nice.
So
find yourself in a nice, busy department. At least you're getting some experience, man. Like that's half the battle.
Yeah.
Yep. And I was having fun. I was having fun, man, and I figured I could just sit around there until Detroit hired, and nobody knew when that was going to be. But they took applications in 2013 in October, and then I started April 28th of 2014.
All right, so you don't even you apply, you don't even have a clue you're going to get this job. Then all of a sudden, you get that you're hired. What's going through your head?
I ran up and down my stairs, yelling.
That's like a huge accomplishment.
I lived in a townhouse, and my parents lived next to me at the time. And my mom was like, she called me. She's like, "What is going on over there?" I'm like, "Dreams are coming true, baby."
Yeah, right. It's happening.
That's awesome.
So
I it felt really good.
I bet.
I would never change anything that I did. Like if people say, "Could you go back and redo that test to get hired at 18?" I wouldn't. I honestly can tell you that I would not do it. If someone told me right now, you have the option to go back to that day and redo that test and pass it and change the trajectory of your life going forward, would you do it? I wouldn't do it. I would do everything exactly the same as it's like one of your questions was, what would I tell my older self tell my younger self?
Yeah. Like what wisdom would you share?
I think the only wisdom I would want to share with my younger self would be that everything will be all right. Sure. And I say it because in that time period, there was ups and downs. There was low points in my life where I thought, man, nothing's working out. Everybody probably goes through this. And there were times where but for some reason, they would always work out. Something always worked out. Sometimes it just took a little while. And back then I wasn't super into religion, and I don't want to curve the podcast into that kind of conversation, but
faith is important,
now,
man.
Yeah, and now where I'm at in my life now, I look back on that and I'm like, dude, it was God's plan the whole time. Like I needed to go through these things to get to where I am. So even saying everything will be all right, I almost don't even want to say that to my younger self, because I feel like having that anxiety about will things be all right, pushed me to do things. So if you knew everything's going to be all right,
okay,
you might just be
relaxed.
You might allow yourself to relax, and then something might not be all right because you relax
too
much.
So okay, on that thread, right? A new guy comes up to you. Hey Zig, I'm new. I'm a little portly. I need to do better at being a fireman. Never done it. What are you going to tell this guy? Like, what is one thing?
Google CrossFit.
There it is. Perfect. I love that. That is that's legit.
On the lines of health, not help. I mean, I would probably have an actual conversation with them, and there's no one-liner that I would be able to come up with, but there's a number of avenues that I would point them in those directions, depending on how much money they had to spend on things. There's street parking. It's $15 a month for firefighters, and they give you incredible amounts of different variations of the workouts every day. O2X. Nice. Yeah. O2X's app. I don't know what O2X's app costs, though. That's the only thing that I'm not sure.
I think it's $10 a month.
Oh, then I'm a terrible O2X employee.
No,
hopefully they don't.
I'm gonna hashtag O2X.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought it was more money than that. I don't know why. But I would point them in those directions.
Sure.
Like, these are avenues that you don't have to spend a ton of money. And I think those are avenues that are a little bit better than just saying, hey man, go get a gym membership. Because I mean, even myself, a gym membership doesn't. That's why I started going back to CrossFit, because the gym membership wasn't cutting it. I walk around the gym. What am I gonna do today?
Right.
I'll just sit over here and do some curls and do the bench again.
Exactly. You're kind of left to your own devices.
And some people, that's what they need.
Sure.
Not me. I need to go in. I need someone to tell me
this.
Okay, for the next 15 minutes, you're gonna be doing this, and then you're gonna do this, and then you're gonna do this. And then this is going to suck, and you're going to do that.
Yeah,
perfect.
Until you're laying on the floor trying to gasp for air. Yeah.
Yes, and I love that feeling.
Oh, man. It's something sweet. It's funny you even say the whole CrossFit thing. Getting in the fire service, I've been working out since I was like 14, just bodybuilding, Just
since he was 4, don't let him lie.
14, yeah. And so getting into Flint, I remember the first 24-hour shift I had, we didn't do anything until like 8 p.m., and then we had a night of like 5 fires.
Oh, geez.
And it was like the first 24 on, And so I'm sitting there. I'm like, I have my senior man. I'm following him around just like a hawk. He's like, hey, just stay close, So I'm trying to learn as much as I can. And I remember our first real big fire we had. It was like a huge 2-story. Like, it was a triple fatal. Like, it ended up being a big fire, a lot of work. And being a probie, like, in your department, man, we had 92 people working there.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was a probie, and another guy was a probie. So we were doing all the work.
Yeah.
And at the end of that fire, I looked at, rest in peace, John Stinger. He was my sergeant at the time.
Yeah.
And I go, hey, man, I'm like, does this get any easier? Like, I thought I was in good shape. And he goes, yeah, it does. Just work harder. And I was like, what does that even mean, man? I was like, so I did the same thing. I'm like, I got to work on, like, endurance. I started looking at my cardiovascular system, and I fell into the whole CrossFit thing. And dude, doing high endurance workouts, high intensity workouts, it helps on this job, because it's like the mental and the physical. It just it helps peak, man. And I think it's underrated.
You got to push yourself. I think CrossFit will push you harder than the normal fire is going to push you. Right. And if you can push yourself that hard on your day off, it just keeps you on your toes for when it happens. And I mean, I feel like most fires, you're not going to have to push it that hard, but there's going to come a fire where you will have to push it. And it might be a 10-minute push or a 5-minute push.
Sure.
But that push could be to get to a kid.
Right.
You got to be able to make that push.
For sure. And that's kind of what we talk about. Like each fire, like even just being a fireman, right? There's a demand that is requested of you to perform, right? So if you can train your capacity to exceed or at least meet the maximum demand that you might face, and we don't really know what that'll be, but if you can train physically and mentally to meet or exceed the demands of your job, in this case firefighting, you're doing yourself a really good favor. You're sharpening the sword. And like you said, it could be a 5-minute push to save your life or save your buddy's life or save a child or just save anything. And you might need 5 minutes. Like, when's the last time you went so hard for 5 minutes that you almost threw up or that you did throw up?
Yeah.
And can you function and think
Right.
in those moments of pure exhaustion? You know, I was just listening to a guy on a podcast talking about people who practice like active shooter stuff.
Right. High stress stuff.
But they're practicing it in like low stress situations where they're not it's not real life, because in real life their heart rate's going to be through the roof.
Sure.
So he has some kind of program that he puts people through where he actually like sounded like basically makes them do a CrossFit workout real quick, and then like, here's the gun, go, you got to go like think. Make a decision. Yeah. Can you think? And that, I mean, we're not shooting people, but
sure.
that correlates to firefighting, because you still got to be able to make, if you're not thinking, that's when you're going to get, killed.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can get killed when you're thinking too, but I think if you're able to keep your wits about you for the most part, in physical training and physical exertion is going to have you prepared for that better.
Absolutely.
It's going to help build up that mental fortitude that most people need, especially in tight situations.
Yeah, it'll give you a dose of that experience. At least it's the first time you've experienced said crisis or high stress thought problem. Hopefully it's not online, right? Like, hopefully you've spent some time offline, putting yourself through what I would call like some stress inoculation.
Yeah.
Like, get your heart rate up, go do something, and solve a riddle or however that goes.
Well, I think it's even important, like what you said, you want to be an asset, not a liability, because there's going to be a lot of people on the job that you call them scrubs, right? So there's going to be some scrubs out there. They might be a new guy. They might have a couple months on the job, and they could be freaking out, but you're their senior man, and you have some kind of mental fortitude because you worked it, you've seen it, you have the experience, and they can kind of follow and see how you carry yourself, and maybe they learn something from it.
Right.
And now you truly are an asset to the department that you work for, because you're teaching and you're serving.
Right. And if you're staying calm, that's going to rub off on the other guy a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Unless he loses his mind, you got to grab him by the face and say, sit down.
Yeah, the people that show up on the fire station, they go, "Let's fully involved." Like, all right, then.
That's
like,
why they called
set
us.
the tone, bro. Way to go.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and I think a lot of guys in this career field, the first time they experience that is at the wrong time.
Yeah. You don't want that first dose to be like when my life depends on it or you're called for service.
Well, imagine think of the first fires that you went to.
Yeah.
It didn't matter how good you were or how much you trained. Like, I don't know about you guys, but me, I was out of breath before I got to the fire.
Dude, always. Like, your body just does something else.
Yeah, I was literally like, I got off the rig and I'm like, I can't breathe. Why am I already hyperventilating?
Right.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And then the tunnel vision sets in,
Oh,
and that tunnel vision that's real. It's a real tunnel that you get stuck in.
For sure, I've been there.
And that's what I was wondering. When does that go away? I mean, it does. It goes away. But for some guys, it might not go away for a long time because they get a fire today, and the next fire they get to go to is 8 months from now. So it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah. Again, the reps and sets and reps, right? Like, if you don't ever experience tunnel vision before that life or death scenario, now you're dealing with a life and death scenario, the fitness aspect, the decision, and now all of a sudden, all you can do is see a little box, and you can't hear anything, and you're just staring at a flame.
Literally,
what the hell?
It's funny the can't hear anything thing. I actually experienced like 100% like
they call
mental
it
like
auditory exclusion.
Okay, that happened to me at a fire where everything went like crazy, and I went in with a guy, and he had the pipe, and I was behind him, and it was a real tight house, real buttoned up. The brown, nasty, snotty looking smoke seeping out through anywhere it could come out.
Right.
And we got there. Me and this guy JB stretched, go up inside the upstairs, and it was hot, but it wasn't like super hot. It was just dark, you couldn't see shit. And we're working our way through this house, and we still haven't found the fire. And all of a sudden, I hear him screaming, and he says, I hear him say, "The line's on fire," and I'm like,
Ooh.
"What?" And then he was gone, and the line was like doing this. So I slunk myself up, shut the line off, and I could hear him like bouncing around elsewhere. And I'm like, I still can't see anything, but now all of a sudden my head is really fucking hot. I didn't know it, but when he passed me, he knocked my helmet off my head.
Okay.
And so my head was just exposed, and it was hot in there. And I was like, dude, what's going on right now? And I could hear him screaming. So I kind of started working my way backwards on the line, and we ran into each other and at the top of the stairs, and we were like mast to mast, and I could finally see something, and all I saw was this crazy face of panic.
Right.
And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And the next thing you know, I'm getting dragged down the stairs by other guys, and they pulled both of us out by like our tanks. They didn't know which one of us was screaming. I don't know maybe I might have been too. I don't know.
Sure.
But I don't think I was. But I remember being out on the front lawn on my knees. Cause we got JB out, and he had it's a long story, but his hands were completely burned. They were the color of your red shirt.
Oh man.
They looked like candles, like wax dripping off. It was wild. Yeah. And his face, he had burns all around it too, because he ripped his mask off.
Oh no.
Panic.
So they're getting him on a stretcher, and I'm on the front lawn, and I'm on my hands and knees, and I remember looking up at there was a balcony above the porch, and this guy, Chris, came crawling out of the door up there and was yelling at me. And I remember looking at him, and I have no idea what he's saying. I can't hear it. I could hear nothing.
Right.
And he was yelling at me to get my ass back in there, that they needed help. And I was like, I mean, I'm kind of ashamed of that moment. But at the same time, I realized that, like, sometimes your brain just won't allow you to fucking process what's going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going up there.
Yeah, so I mean, I snapped out of it, and went back in, and then the house ended up, dude, it was wild. The house ended up collapsing, and we all got out of it. Like, one of the guys jumped down the back stairwell and broke his foot, trying to get out of the house because the stairs were burned out. I got out the front, and then the whole roof came in, like,
Jeez.
as we were exiting it.
Jeez.
It was a crazy fire.
Was there
But
a
I had
save
that-
or anything? Was there, like, did you guys rescue anybody?
No, it was a vacant house.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
You versed out, man.
Hey, we were having fun though.
Sure.
Yeah,
No, I
right.
get it. That probably has a lot of good carryover. So at this point, how long have you been with Detroit Fire?
Right now, I've been on, in April, it'll be 9 years.
9 years? Oh my goodness.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
Almost hitting the double digits.
I know. It's been a great 9 years. I bounced around a few different firehouses.
Yeah.
I've been on a truck for quite a while, which some guys will talk negatively about.
Sure.
But I don't really care, because I've been to a lot of fires, and the only calls we have to go to are fires and the occasional lift assist. And I don't have to go to medical runs, and I love that.
Yeah. Kudos to you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not, the trucks are not as busy as the engines, but
Right.
I mean, to be honest, the engines are getting up all night long, going on a bunch of medical runs, and they might go to a couple fires too, but that doesn't mean that they're stretching on those fires. So they could just be up and just be at the fire and not doing much.
Right.
To me, on a truck, no matter what, when we're at a fire, we're the only truck, so we got work to do. So we're doing something,
Yeah.
And I found that I enjoy truck work a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's physically exerting, and there's engine work isn't mindless, but engine work is very physically exerting, but it is almost mindless. Like, you take the hose to the fire and put the fire out.
Yeah.
Right.
with the truck work, there's more jobs involved. You
Mhm.
know, there's getting the doors open, there's the power, there's the gas, there's ventilation, there could be possible search and rescue.
Yeah.
There's, you know, how are we ventilating? There's multiple ways to ventilate.
Mhm.
Multiple ways of getting the door open. There's all kinds of things. So I enjoy that. I like it.
It sounds like it's a little bit more strategic and tactical than just
I think
grabbing a
so.
pipe
If
and
it's a
running
good,
it through a house.
if it's a good truck company, I think if you got good truck guys that like doing truck work, truck guys in Detroit, there are a lot of guys that do hide on a truck because they get to go to less calls. So that
Okay.
kind of gives truck guys a little bit of a shitty reputation, I guess you could
Sure.
say. But you know what? I'm not trying to impress anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you define the culture, like not necessarily of the department, but of your crew? Like, what is your crew culture like? The guys you work with the most.
Oh, I love our crew. My crew is awesome.
I'd love to hear about it.
Our new schedule has changed things. We used to work. There'd be 3 Kellys on a platoon, so you'd work with different guys each day.
Right.
Now we work with the same people every single day, unless you're at a house where you like get detailed out, or you have details coming in. We have a full roster at our house,
That's important.
on our unit. So
Nice.
nobody's getting detailed in or out unless somebody called off sick or
Yeah,
whatever.
get a
We might
sickie or
have a guy.
something.
We might have an overtime guy in on a detail or something. But for the most part, we're together every day. Same crew.
That's awesome.
So there's 8 of us, and you know Casey Foreign, right?
Yeah. her
Nick-
brother's on my shift.
Nick Foreign. Yep. Okay. So her she's on my crew. She's on the truck with me.
Nice.
Steve Aliff, he's on the truck, and Lieutenant Babish. Babish is like a bad dude.
Yeah.
Like he's like another effort dude. He's one of those firemen that everybody respects and was a badass dude. He ran that squad 3 during the fucking war years, and
Wow.
he's a good fireman. He's a really good boss. He always has your back. Like he has your back like hard. Like if someone does something wrong, he'll be like, I'll call him right now. He sounds like Tony Soprano. It's pretty funny.
That's
Hey.
awesome.
Nice, man.
We all
Yeah.
need a guy like that.
Yeah, the Godfather of the station.
He's freaking awesome. He picks on me a lot with my cooking because he doesn't like where I shop or like the brands I get or whatever. He'd be like, "Hey, what the hell is this? You didn't go to the market. What the hell's the matter?" But you know, I like it. It's you know, it's all part of the game. And then the engine is Lieutenant Nunnery. He's another cool guy. I worked with him in the 7th Battalion when he was a senior man. He's a lieutenant now.
Nice.
Real good dude. Quiet. Real aggressive firefighter. And then their crew, Hohenscheid and Haberstick, they're both young guys.
Okay.
Young single guys. Hard workers. Love, Haberstick's a leather forever kind of guy.
Yeah.
Wears his leather helmet. He just likes being a fireman, and Matt, I lucked out. I love my firehouse, and
Nice.
I love the guys where I used to run. It was a great firehouse there too. I had a good crew. We had a couple guys there that were a little iffy on the crew. Where I'm at now, it's everybody's solid across the board.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's a good place to be,
Yeah,
man.
our biggest complaint is Haverstick's, and he gets emotional sometimes.
That's funny.
So
We call it sad Tom days.
So on the truck and engine, do you guys see a lot of new guys on the trucks, or is that more experienced firemen there?
Yeah, usually the more senior guys go to the trucks just because they can. But now
Right.
it's like this department's so young now that like my crew's all young. I'm senior man on our truck.
Wow.
So, but before early on, I transferred to Ladder 13, and it was all senior guys. Like I got on there. Only reason why I got that spot was because it was a closed ladder, and I transferred there. And it was closed, so I was detailed out almost every day, which was cool because I got to see the city. I got to work. I got to go to squads and engines and trucks and whatever. So that was. But now the department's it's shifted, man.
Sure.
In 9 years, we've hired so many people. There's so many young guys now.
So when you guys get new guys, do you guys put that rookie or that probie? Do you put him with a senior guy? What do you do?
I don't even know anymore, dude. It's we have got something going on right now. When I got hired, you were assigned to the captain of the house or a senior lieutenant, and that was, you had your senior man, and you worked with those guys every day.
Okay.
Now, dude, we got dual role guys. We got guys coming from EMS. They go through like a 2-week academy. They get out. They do half their day on an ambulance, half their day in the engine. The next day they split, they switch, and it's not good.
Yeah, that sounds crazy.
We're hemorrhaging people. They're leaving. They don't like it. Nobody likes it.
Yeah, that sucks. We're not necessarily losing people, but we're getting an influx of new recruits, and from the sounds of it and what I've noticed is we got rookies training rookies. Yeah, I know they're with the captain, but
yeah, we got that on the ambulance right now. Like, I'm hearing stories about guys that are on an ambulance, 2 brand new guys on an ambulance.
Oh wow!
For a 12-hour shift. And then later on that day, they're on the engine for the rest of the night. And, we got kinks to work out.
Sure.
The department's trying to merge the 2 divisions and allow us to do dual role where we're allowed to do EMS and fire. And it hasn't been good so far. But hopefully we can work through it, because I think it's kind of starting to affect the culture and the morale, and there's a lot of division between us and EMS.
Sure.
Because the EMS guys that have Fire 1 and 2 want to come over and be on the fire side, and they're not allowed to, but we're allowed to go. I can pick up an overtime shift on an ambulance tomorrow if I want.
Oh, really?
But they're not allowed to do that the other way, and it's just like it's things have a lot of things are changing right now.
I bet. So how long have you been married? You said you're married, right?
Yeah. Why you gotta ask me questions like that?
So you've been married for a while, right?
For 4 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, we got married in 2019.
Nice. So how has
math
it been?
Checks out.
Yeah, good math. How has it been bringing a marriage into your fire life? How has that gone for you?
You know, it's funny. My wife's a master sergeant in the Army.
Oh.
So she's not your average woman.
Nope.
Like, she's not. Yeah. So it's been easy. So like, she don't give a shit about my job. She's not. I don't think she worries about stuff. Right. I don't think I got a buddy whose wife used to, yeah. My one buddy's wife used to call me when he was at work if he didn't answer his phone after the 3rd try, because she was so afraid that something happened.
Sure.
My wife, she's got too much other shit going on in her brain to work what's going on with me. Which I guess she just assumes that everything's gonna be all right. I've been doing this for a while, so
sure.
So yeah, we don't have any issues with the job. The schedule's probably, she likes to schedule the best because I'm home a lot.
Nice.
Or she doesn't. She might hate that part.
Yeah, right.
I know my wife likes it when I'm at work a little bit more than when I'm home, so it's okay though. So yeah, so it sounds like she's tempered. Like she's been through the military stuff, so she's got her bearings squared away.
Yeah, for sure.
Those poor kids.
She's definitely. What's that?
I said your poor kids.
Well, it's funny because we have 4 kids, and 3 of them are her and her ex-husband's kids.
Okay.
I remember when I met, we dated for a while before I ever even saw her kids, and it was like 7 months in, and then she introduced me to her kids, and I remember they were like, she'd say something, and they'd be like, "Yes, ma'am." I was like,
nice. That's what I mean.
Yeah, so she's squared away. She's definitely, she can handle that kind of job.
Heck yeah.
I think she just doesn't think about it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, if you dwell on it, it just gets tough.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about how crazy the fire service has changed. You have 15, 20 years, 19 years total around there.
Yep.
So I got 8 years total, and I got a job with City of Flint, the first place I applied. You talk about Detroit.
Flint's a badass department too, man.
Oh, the time I had there was some of the funnest time. It'll never be replaced. I'll never change anything that I did. I loved it. It was great. I worked with a ton of awesome guys. Got awesome experience.
Yeah.
But just in general, you waited 10 years to get an opportunity to go work for Detroit again. And now every department has an application out multiple times a year. And we're trying to get people.
Yeah, we can't get people.
Yeah. Dude, I remember when I didn't get hired in Detroit the first time, it was like I paid a monthly service fee, a subscription fee to firecareers.com. You remember that website?
Yep.
I was on there, and like I had buddies that would like pay me part of the subscription so that they didn't have to pay full price. And then I would email them when departments got, openings.
Yeah.
And we would apply wherever. I tested with Battle Creek, Grand Rapids. I tested with Flint a couple times, Pontiac. I never went out of state. A lot of my buddies went out of state, but dude, everybody was hustling to find a fire job.
Heck yeah.
Now it's like we can't find enough people that want the job.
Crazy.
Or qualified people, for that matter.
Yeah.
Well, right. I don't really know why that is. Like, I don't know what changed. I don't know. I know what's changed, and a lot's changed in the fire service, but on the outside looking in, like, why are less people coming to do our job?
People are different, I think.
Oh, there's people in cat suits now that do stuff, so that's different.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, we didn't have those before.
Yeah, that's pretty new. But yeah, it's like it seems like the people back in the day, or even back in your day, when you wanted to go get a job, if you go and get a job, let alone your first try, it's like winning a mini Powerball.
Dude, yeah, I think 15,000 people applied to Detroit when I applied.
Yeah,
dang.
And you work with how many?
I got the department. I want to say we have 800 fire, maybe more than that. I'm not sure.
That's a lot.
At one time there was like 1,100, but they said I'm pretty sure it was 15,000 people that applied, and we had to stand in line. I got to Coble Hall at like 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And stood in line. They stamped your application, and you got a number. And your number in line was your number for seniority if you got hired.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa. Get there early.
Yeah, because I remember my number was 93.
Okay.
But now it's based on same thing, but it's a time stamp on your application.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So my buddy applied 10 minutes after I did because I called him and told him the DAPs were open after I applied.
Yeah,
so
as you should have.
I always just let him know, like, hey, just remember, I'm going to be your boss for at least a day.
Yeah, right. Just wait.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, so
man.
the fire service definitely changed in that aspect. It's like if you get your medic now and you're fire 1 and 2 certified, you can pick your poison, man. Where do you want to go?
You got the golden ticket, man. You're good to go.
Yep.
It's weird.
Yep.
It is weird. I remember
it is.
struggling to get my medic and just praying that I would get a job somewhere because there were so many people applying. And then interview after interview, it's like I'd had to do 10 interviews before I got a job offer. And that's not even that many. Like people did way more than that.
Yeah.
And what department did you start on? Ann Arbor? Or?
So I started with Waterford Pontiac in that.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yep, I remember that.
They did that Waterford Pontiac merger takeover thing, and I got to work on both sides of the city. And dude, working on that Pontiac side, those guys were cowboys. They taught me so much stuff. I just remember a handful of the guys that I got to work with were super aggressive, super talented, and most of them were skinny. Like there weren't a lot of hefty gentlemen. And even those guys were still ball busters, right? They were driving that truck. They knew their shit. And that if I could have stayed there, if I wouldn't have got laid off, I would have stayed with the Waterford Pontiac area. But man, that was probably the best way to break into the fire service. Yeah. We were having fires every shift almost. I remember jumping in the truck, staying late, and catching extra fires just because it was like, this is legit. We're doing it.
Yeah, you wanted to be there. We hired a couple guys in Highland Park part-time that were Pontiac guys.
Okay.
When the merger took place.
Yeah.
One of them was a captain, Aaron Ozian.
Yeah, I got to work with him. Yep.
Brian and Steinable?
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, those two are just phenomenal dudes. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Loved working with them. They were fucking awesome.
Yeah.
They were cool.
They called them Steiny.
Yep,
And when I was there, he was a captain, and I think he was on A shift or C shift, whatever shift that would have been, but maybe B shift. But dude, those guys were so good at their job, and they were so efficient. It was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And they didn't make my job easy. Like, they pushed me and they challenged me and they made me work and they made me drag hose, and we trained hard. I remember just sweating my ass off in the middle of the summer training with those guys. But they would go to work, dude. It's like stuff is just happening.
Right.
It was amazing.
Yep.
So, I had a pretty good cutting my teeth into the fire service, if you will. Now,
yeah, for sure.
In Ann Arbor, we might get a fire every couple months.
I mean, that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, we got good fire prevention. We're training a bunch of new recruits. We're I hate to say it, but I don't beg for fires anymore, because that means somebody else is having a really, really bad day. And if my city's not having a bad day, I'm having a good day.
Right.
And I like good days of work.
I feel the same way. If I went to work and never caught another fire, I wouldn't be upset about it.
No.
I've found the one weird thing from coming to Flint to Southfield is, in Flint we had like 10,000 vacant houses, and majority of the time that's what's burning.
That's
a
so
vacant
many.
house.
That's so many.
And now there's almost more purpose in when we get a fire now in Southfield, because I haven't had a vacant house yet.
Right.
And they're always occupied. You know, whether there's somebody in there or not, it's somebody's house, somebody's property.
Right. It's not just a house that's sitting in a lot.
Yeah, versus something that's like, hey, this might be knocked down next year, but it's us versus this. You know, like, we're going to put this out. Now it's like there's value to what you're doing. And it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, if I get one fire in Southfield, I'm probably not going to follow up with the second one in the same day.
Right.
Like, I think I had 3 is the most we've had in one day, which is
That's
nice.
a lot.
Well, no, it doesn't happen very often. It was just one day. But
No, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
I always said, like, wearing the same pair of pants all day at work is not a bad gig. You know, like, sometimes slowing down.
Dude, yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's funny you say that. I never really thought about that, but I remember in Highland Park I had to have like 5 or 6 pairs of clothes, because I'd be changing my clothes all day.
Yeah. Even now, it's
Take
like
multiple showers.
Right. I got a duffel bag, and I got like 4 pairs of pants. I'm like, why am I still doing this, man? Like, I've been here for 3 years, and I've like changed my pants one time, you know, like.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of miss it a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. I miss those days a lot. You know, being in those harder times and those struggles with guys, like, you form a different kind of bond with those people.
Sure.
Then, you know, so I do miss that, but I don't know that I would go back to it. I like where I'm at now.
You take the moments for what they're worth. Like, that's the camaraderie that comes along with, like, getting beaten down all night long with those same guys.
Right.
There's something that it's hard to beat.
Shared struggles.
Yeah.
Hey, you got to remember, oh, go ahead.
No, but
I was just going to say, if you just take a minute and appreciate the moment, like, you know, you're in the middle of the shittiest day of your career, you're going to look back on that career day and say, that was the day. Like, you're going to look at your buddies.
I'm glad
I
was there.
Yeah.
Right.
You remember that? We struggled forever with that fire. Man, I wouldn't have done any different with you. Like, that was the way to go.
The worst is when you would miss those fires.
Oh, I know.
And you hear people talking about it.
When you were at home, man. And it's funny because back then I used to, I would be off duty and I'd be out on my boat and I'd see, you know, there'd be a day where Detroit was burning and you'd be plumes of smoke that you could see from the lake.
Wow.
And I would call the firehouse and be like, hey, you know, do you guys got a fire right now? And sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes the answer was like, yeah, they got 3 houses on Louise going right now. And I'd be like, oh, cool. I'd drive my boat to Marino, go to work. And there was days where some of the bosses would put you on for the day because you came in and helped, and other days you didn't get paid. And I was like, whatever, I don't even care. I just want to be here.
Nice.
Right. That's awesome.
I liked it that much. I would never do that now.
Right. That is not how I operate anymore, but.
Do not call me on my day off. I don't want to take overtime.
Oh, man.
So I think, obviously, 99.9% of firemen don't end up working in Detroit. What is it like from you went part-time to Highland Park to Detroit? How is the tradition there, man? Like, what is it? Like, people talk about it all the time, like, oh, this is what Detroit does. They do this, they do that. What does the tradition of that old-time classic department mean to you?
I think that there's a lot of tradition in like our there's so much tradition in, you know, the way we eat, the way we fight the fires, the way we spend our days. I think it's different from what I hear. I mean, I've never really. Ecorse, Highland Park, and Detroit have been the main departments that I worked for.
Sure.
So those three departments are very, very similar to each other when it comes to tradition, because
Okay.
Ecorse adopted a lot of the Detroit stuff. A lot of those guys were friends with Detroit, or back in the day when Detroit had their own academy.
Yep.
A lot of the Ecorse firemen went to Detroit's academy. So there was a lot of the same things that Detroit does, we did there. And in Highland Park, we didn't eat together in Highland Park. That was the only thing we didn't do.
Really?
We all just brought our own. Yeah, we brought our own food. Every now and then we would cook a meal together. So like, I've only really known those traditions other than the volunteer department, and I don't think that's very
they're not really
applicable.
tradition there. It's just
kind of
you're not at the firehouse at all. So but the traditions of, like, you know, we cook 2 meals, we all eat together, we're in the kitchen helping each other cook all day, and that stuff kind of, like, there's every now and then there's suggestions. Guys are like, well, we should just bring our own food. I'm like, no. This builds this. If Highland Park didn't have the amount of fires that it would do, we would have had no Brotherhood there, because we didn't do anything together other than fight fires.
Right.
I mean, we had fun staying up all night bullshitting in the firehouse, but we weren't cooking meals together and sitting down and eating together. And but there was a lot of tradition there, but that just wasn't one of them.
Okay.
So I got a question about tradition. A lot of firefighters have a side gig. What do you got going on about a side gig?
I got like 3 side gigs. I worked for O2X for a while. I still get their emails, but I haven't worked for them in a year now. I would love that. I will eventually, hopefully, have time to do that again.
Right.
Because I really, really love working for O2X. It wasn't for the money. It was for the what I got to do for the fire service. You know, going and putting, you know, helping out at those seminars that were helping other firefighters, other first responders. That I loved doing that.
Me too.
I loved meeting new firemen and you know, just networking in the profession. But I started a power washing company.
Nice.
3 years ago, I think. I started it in 2020. So yeah, 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I was just doing it like I needed something to do on the side, make some extra money. I had a newborn, and it blew up. I made way more money than I thought I would, and then the next year I made way more money than I thought I would, and then last year I made more money than that. And I'm like,
whoa,
we're spending a lot of the money to get the business going bigger now.
As
but
you should.
I actually like got into a business coaching program that is like pretty well known in like the industry.
Okay.
And that's been pushing me to do things that I wasn't comfortable with before. And it went from like, I'm going to do this to, you know, have extra money, and to now I'm trying to scale it to the point where I can have employees and
there you go.
Kind of make somebody else, you know, I like the thought of having employees, not necessarily so that I don't have to do the work, which that is part of it, but also it will be nice to be able to employ somebody and, you know, hopefully if I do things right, provide a stable employment for a person in a positive work environment, and, you know, even propel people into better things for themselves. You know, I don't think power washing is necessarily what people think. I'm going to spend a career, a lifetime being a pressure washer, but, you know, working for a company that's good and teaches you how to do something could propel you to open up your own service business at some point. As long as you're not pressure washing in my neighborhood.
There's a lot to be said.
Stay off the turf.
It's important to have a steady financial income so you can start pursuing other things, right? Like, just because you work for a power wash company doesn't mean you're going to be a power wash guru your whole life. Right. And you go ahead.
There's a lot of these companies out there that I've learned stuff from, and other business owners that I've interviewed and talked to and spent time with at conferences and stuff. And there's guys out there. There's a fireman in Florida. He started just like I did, and he ended up retiring from the fire service early, and now his business is all he does is run the business, and he's got all his employees working 4-day work weeks.
Yeah.
They get 3-day weekends every week. They full benefits, and like, he's got a great culture at work, and I'm like, that's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
To be able to do that for somebody, and provide that kind of lifestyle with a person where they're making decent money and they're not working themselves to the bone.
Sure.
So I'm trying to get it to that point. I would like to be able to get it systemized where the business kind of runs itself smoothly and I have people in place. It's going to be a while, but and I have more time. I would like to have more time with the family and more time to do things like do some O2X seminars. And
heck yeah. There's something to be said for working on your business rather than in your business, right? Like getting out of it so you can focus on the bigger picture and back up a little bit.
When you're in it, you just have a job.
Right.
I own a job.
Yep.
Right.
I don't own a business yet. I own a job.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, you're not the CEO.
And I've actually thought about doing some coaching stuff. I'm not a guru by any means, but I think I have quite a lot of knowledge. I obsess over things. When I dive into it, I obsess over it.
Nice.
Me and my buddies do the outdoor podcast and TV show, and they'll tell you
when we're looking, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Times Up Outdoors. Yeah. Check us out we got social media. We're on all the podcasting things, and then we have a show on Carbon TV.
Nice.
Which is an outdoor network online. But when we're looking at a new camera or a new product or something, I obsess into learning everything about it before we're allowed to buy it.
Sure.
With the power washing thing, I paid for, different courses that people offered online to learn how to do it and what equipment I needed. I instead of just trying to find it all for free and trial and error, I just threw out some money and bought courses.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm at the point where I have all that knowledge on how to get the business started.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm rolling into that, how do I scale this now?
Sure.
To where I think that I would like to offer my knowledge as to how to start the business.
Okay.
It takes time. So it's something that, obviously it's not going to be for free, but
right.
I wouldn't mind to do some coaching, business coaching for people that want to start, and especially other firefighters if they want to, try to start a business on the side. And I've actually helped.
I know a guy.
Yeah.
I've helped a few guys on our department and on one guy is a Cherry Hill fireman in New Jersey. And he called me last year and picked my brain and,
nice.
And he started a business. Jeff Ford works in Montgomery County. He called me last year. He was going to do asphalt sealing. And we talked for a while on the phone. And the next thing you know, he's like head first. He bought like a Humvee in it.
Oh, wow.
And that's his power washing truck. It's sweet.
Hell yeah.
So I feel like it would be fun to be able to kind of give back and help some other guys start a business like that.
Heck yeah. So if anybody out there is curious, let's reach out to our guy Scott here.
I have right now. I have a candidly is it called? Clarity. I got to look it up.
Fair enough.
You can schedule a coaching call with me, and it's like $100 and something for an hour.
Okay.
I can't remember what the price is on there, and then I make some of that money. Obviously, that company makes some of that money, but
okay.
That's all I have right now. Because I found that I was seriously taking phone calls from DMs in my Instagram, dude.
Right.
Like a dude from California would call me all the time. Some Chicago fireman would call me all the time.
Nice.
And I was like, I don't mind helping, but this is taking up my time.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel bad in a way, but at the same time, I'm like, if you're willing to give up it, and something else I learned is if you pay for something,
you'll pay attention to it.
You pay attention.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to sit on the phone with you for an hour and tell you a bunch of shit that you're never going to do, I'm wasting both of our time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you want to give me $100, I'll sit on the phone with you for an hour, tell you everything I know, and now you're going to say, I just spent $100 on this. I got to at least do something that you told me to do.
Right. You take notes at minimum, have some skin in the game.
Right. So I'm working on a video course that I can put together so that people can actually watch the videos and get that knowledge in that sense. But right now, I'll send you the link. I don't.
Yeah, we'll put all the
I
stuff
don't-
in the description and all your links, and we'll make sure everybody has everything they need to get a hold of you through whatever route you give us. So,
Cool.
heck yeah, brother. Well, one last thing. I know we talked about a book recommendation, and you're kicking ass in life in the fire service and building a business. But what is that book you wanted to recommend?
I think I wrote down Fearless. Fearless was a great movie. I said Profit first.
You did say profit,
Because
and then
that's where I'm at. My
Right.
mindset is right.
okay,
I think that if you are an entrepreneur or in the business sense where you're trying to start a business, that's
Yeah.
a book you need to read. It'll teach you how to work the money.
copy.
Fearless, though. Fearless was a good book. I read it years ago. It was about a guy. His last name's Brown. I can't remember his first name.
Okay,
But basically, he had a screwed up life.
sure.
Wasn't going anywhere. Ends up being a Navy SEAL.
Nice.
In the SEALs, shit goes sideways. He loses an eye. He loses his dominant eye.
Oh, geez.
Ends up becoming a Navy SEAL sniper. Was told there's no way you're gonna do it. Loses his dominant hand. Ability to use his dominant hand. Has to learn how to shoot with his other hand.
And his other
His
eye.
Humvee explodes. Dude, both eye and hand.
Jeez.
It's a good story. It's
Okay.
a really cool story. He went through, drug addiction and a lot of other things and just overcame it. And I
Nice.
think it's funny. It's not a lot of people. Everybody knows like David Goggins and all them guys, which, those guys are awesome too. But
Yeah.
I thought this book was just the way this guy had a shit sandwich and somehow made it taste good. I don't know how he did it. The
Right.
stuff that he would go through, I'm just like, dude,
You're real.
it's a good book.
Yeah.
And that's called Fearless?
Fearless.
Okay. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes for anybody who's interested.
Yeah, it's a good perspective.
Cool,
looking,
man.
reading something like that and seeing you might have some problems in your life, but you
Mm-hmm.
hear about somebody like that that's still overcoming their shit. It's like,
Mhm.
I got some
Dude,
things, but I can iron those out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good.
Honestly, man, I've learned that in life, like, and I've also learned to just like take it. Sometimes sometimes shit's just not going right, and it just takes time because I've had days where I'm like, dude, nothing is working out. My life is not going the way it's supposed to go.
Sure.
And if you just get past that and keep motoring through and doing the right thing, shit works itself out. And I do think that faith is an important thing as
Yeah.
well. And I wish that I had found that a lot earlier in life.
Sure.
Because now, like, I'm Sunday morning, I get home from work, I'm waking my wife up and let's go. We're going to church. Come on.
Sure.
Right.
I need it. I need to hear what they got to say today.
Right. I
Yeah.
need that reminder.
That's awesome, man.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Light that fire inside.
Yep.
Well, it's been a fantastic experience chatting with you this afternoon, brother. I appreciate you making time, and best of luck with everything. And I don't know if we caught the name of your exterior home cleaning power washing company.
It's ProTech Pressure Wash. We pretty much operate all over on the east side of Detroit, Macomb
Okay.
County, a little bit of Oakland County.
Awesome.
Excellent.
We
Well-
will tag that up. And yeah, thanks again, man. You have been awesome. We love the stories, love hearing from you. And yeah, invaluable information here.
Very invaluable. Well,
Cool, man. Thanks for having me on.
you bet,
Absolutely.
brother. I'm Chris.
I'm Ben.
And together we are Priority Traffic Podcast. Thanks for checking us out today with our guest series, Scott Ziegler, Detroit Firefighter. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and we appreciate everybody watching, taking the time to subscribe and share this. If you find value, share it with somebody. Peace.